This student was a real troublemaker. The teacher asked him to read a sentence in English, and he actually invented his own language to read aloud. The teacher was furious. She has never taught a student as bad as him. She sent him to stand in the corner. On a math test, on a simple question like what is 3 times 9, he chose a bizarre solution. He thought that the 2 numbers were planets, and he was the leader of the universe. He was in charge of moving the 3rd planet to meet the 9th planet. Then the 3rd planet hit the 9th planet hard and destroyed it. So the boy came up with the answer. 3 times 9 equals 3. The boy was confident. He was going to get a 100 on his test. His classmates asked him how he did. The boy said with a smug look on his face, the questions were really easy, but he got a 0 in the end. How did the boy deal with his parents? The boy got a 0 on his test. He needed his parents to sign the paper. He was afraid of his parents scolding him, so he had an idea. He called 2 dogs, and they immediately ate the paper. When he got back, he told his parents, "The dogs ate my paper on the way home. They beat him up." The boy's name was Ethan. He picked up a classmate's ball and threw it outside the school. The classmate was so mad at him that he put Ethan in a chokehold. When Ethan got home, he saw his classmates' parents. They came to the door to demand compensation. Ethan's father didn't even ask for it, and slapped Ethan across the face. Ethan's bad behavior was egregious. He was described as the worst kind of child by teachers and parents alike. The teacher told Ethan's parents that Ethan had 0s in all his subjects. The principal said the boy must be mentally retarded. He was nothing compared to his brother's intelligence. To make matters worse, Ethan's brother was the top student in the school. Ethan, on the other hand, was in 3rd grade. He had already failed twice. Ethan even made his brother fake a sick note and then skip class so he could go out and play. The principal wanted Ethan expelled from school. Ethan's father was furious. No matter how bad his son was in school, he couldn't be mentally retarded. At most, he was just spoiled. So he called a friend and transferred his son to a boarding school, hoping to help his son and change his personality. This is the strictest boarding school in history. Any student who misbehaved would be reduced to sheep's clothing. Ethan had never left the house. He watched his parents' car drive away. As tears of sadness streamed down his face, was he really abandoned? His mother and brother didn't want to leave Ethan either, but for Ethan's sake, they had to leave him. What Ethan's parents didn't know was that Ethan wasn't good at math or language, but he was good at art. Ethan didn't need to read instructions to finish a 10,000-piece puzzle. He could put it together quickly and accurately. While he was on the street, he saw a child eating a lollipop. He then went back and put it on a piece of white paper, using yellow and red paint and water, creating a beautiful gradient. He then drew this child eating a lollipop. When Ethan knew he was going to leave home, Ethan drew a continuous drawing, hand over hand. Ethan was gradually leaving his parents and brother, but Ethan's talent was unknown. He could only suppress his sadness deep inside. In the middle of the night, when no one was around, he hid in the bathroom and cried. When he finished, he washed his red eyes with water so that no one would notice that he had cried. Now that Ethan was without parental protection, he became cautious in class. The teacher asked Ethan to explain a poem. Ethan said, "What we see and feel is the truth, and what we cannot see or feel is falsehood." The teacher was so angry that his head almost caught fire. In fact, Ethan told the true meaning of the poem, but the teacher thought he was a problem student. He instinctively thought Ethan could not correct him. In art class, Ethan was always distracted. The art teacher threw a piece of chalk and brought Ethan back to his senses. Then the art teacher made Ethan extend his hand and hit him 5 times. Ethan's hand was swollen and the pain was unbearable, so some tears ran down his face, but he did not cry out loud because here no one could protect Ethan. Crying made Ethan a laughingstock among his teachers and classmates. So Ethan wiped his tears and continued his lesson. This boy was very unusual. In English class, the words in Ethan's eyes were like little dancing men. In math class, the numbers were disappearing. Not only did his grades not improve at this boarding school, he also became silent and irritable. He threw all his books in the trash can. He threw his bag out of the building. But all the materials Ethan saw turned into spiders. They crawled into his neck and desk. They tried to eat Ethan's body. Ethan was so scared that he slapped the spiders to death. Eventually, the teacher gave Ethan a nickname, the King of Stupidity, until a new art teacher came, and here Ethan finally got out of his predicament. This teacher made his first appearance in an unusual way. He dressed up as a clown. He did 3 jumps in a row. He sang, he danced, and he played the flute for the students. He got a lot of applause from the students. This teacher's name was Nick. His teaching style was out of this world. On his first day as a teacher, he gave his students free rein. They drew whatever they wanted, but Ethan's paper was blank. Nick found out. Ethan was constantly being punished by other teachers. When Ethan saw Nick, Ethan unconsciously trembled with fear. Nick noticed this special kid, so he decided to pay a home visit to get to know Ethan better. Ethan's parents showed Nick Ethan's previous exercise book. However, there was a drawing missing from the book. Nick was shocked. He didn't realize this kid could draw, so he looked at Ethan's other drawings. One of them was very interesting. From the front, soldiers were digging a tunnel. From the back, soldiers were escaping through the tunnel. Even an adult wouldn't think of such an idea. Nick told Ethan's parents that Ethan is not an idiot. He is a genius at drawing. Ethan's father said with disdain, "Don't be silly. What's the advantage of drawing?" Nick opened Ethan's English book. Ethan writes B instead of D. He writes D instead of B. This is a gross error in judgment. In other words, Ethan has dyslexia. He can't coordinate his visual and auditory information. Ethan's father disagreed. He thought Ethan didn't like studying. Nick saw that he didn't believe him. He picked up a toy box. It was written in Japanese. Nick asked Ethan's father to read it aloud. Ethan's father was angry. "I don't know any Japanese." Nick didn't give him a chance to argue. "You're too arrogant. Your attitude is wrong." Then Ethan's father realized something. It turned out that he never understood his son. He didn't understand his behavior or what he was going through. He just blamed Ethan. Nick said, "This is what Ethan is dealing with now. He can't recognize the alphabet." So Ethan's confidence was destroyed. In turn, he used his rebellion to cover up his inability. Now Ethan's rebellion has disappeared. He even gave up drawing. Nick knew that. He wanted to help Ethan regain his confidence. Nick was in the classroom. Take the famous painter Leonardo da Vinci for example. Leonardo da Vinci had dyslexia. He always wrote sentences backwards. Nick shined a mirror on the board. The sentence became natural to Ethan. Ethan's eyes lit up when he saw it. He had found something that interested him. Ethan suddenly realized that an idiot could be a genius, and here he finally smiled. By the end of the class, Nick told Ethan alone that he would shine someday. Ethan regained his confidence. In his outdoor art class, he no longer stared into nothingness. He took things from the ground, like twigs and leaves, and made a floating water wheel. Nick showed it to his classmates. Everyone applauded Ethan's invention. Ethan bowed his head in embarrassment. Nick saw that Ethan had become more confident, so he began teaching him one-on-one. Nick taught Ethan how to read English words to increase Ethan's interest in learning. Nick wrote the letters of the alphabet on Ethan's arm, so Ethan could feel the shapes of the letters. Then he used different watercolors to distinguish between similar letter shapes and to add and subtract numbers. Nick wrote positive and negative numbers on the steps and let Ethan jump up and down the stairs as a way for him to calculate addition and subtraction accurately. Each time, Ethan got better and better. Nick played with him with the claymation, and indeed, Ethan fell in love with learning. With this artistic way of teaching, Ethan admired every number and every word. His test scores got better and better, but that was not all. Nick had organized a school-wide drawing competition, and he had a special gift for Ethan. And at that moment, Ethan's father arrived at the school to tell Nick that he cared about Ethan, and that he hoped Nick would not misunderstand. Now listen to what Nick had to say. Once upon a time in the Solomon Islands, when the natives wanted to cut down a tree, they formed a circle around the tree, and they cursed the tree loudly, and within a few days the tree died. Ethan's father felt very guilty, because Ethan was the tree. They were the parents, the ones who had turned Ethan from a genius into an idiot. Ethan's father was walking out of Nick's office, and suddenly he saw Ethan. Ethan looked at the drawing competition on the bulletin board. He read it word by word. Ethan's father began to cry uncontrollably. On the day of the drawing competition, Ethan, who had never known how to button or tie his shoes, cleaned himself up. The genius boy was going to a drawing competition. He combed his hair carefully. He carried his drawing tools on his back. At dawn, he went to the riverbank and looked into the distance. When the time came, he went to the competition. All the teachers and students were here to draw in harmony. Ethan did not panic. He chose a lonely tree. He took out the oil paints his brother had given him. Nick began to draw his masterpiece. Nick watched Ethan. He got into the drawing mood too. For this competition, Nick brought a professional judge to choose the first place winner. Ethan was a fast painter. He quickly handed his drawing to Nick. Nick was shocked. Ethan's painting was of him sitting by the stream outside the school, with trees, flowers, fish, and animals, all coming out to play. It was like a scene of the earth coming to life. And Nick's painting, Ethan was laughing heartily like a happy teenager. Ethan was shocked. He felt the happiness he had been yearning for from this painting. Ethan's painting won first place. When the judges announced it, the audience applauded. Ethan was overwhelmed with sudden excitement. He stumbled and fell on the stairs. Nick immediately rushed to Ethan's aid. He carried him to the stage. Ethan received his first award. This was not only an acknowledgement of Ethan's strength, but also a sign that Ethan's life had turned for the better. From that moment on, Ethan was no longer the king of stupidity. He was now a talented artist. But Ethan did not take the award right away. He turned and threw himself into Nick's arms, because only the two of them knew how hard it was for him to receive this honor. The hardships, the blows, the mockery that Ethan had endured, it almost destroyed him. Fortunately, he met Nick. Nick saw something in Ethan. He never gave up on him. He taught him patience and care. Ethan regained his confidence. So this honor belonged to both of them. After that, the principal drew Ethan the cover of the school brochure to continue this honor. Ethan's parents were shocked, and they were very grateful to Nick. And at the end of the day, Ethan was in Nick's arms. Ethan flew into the bright sky. That's the end of the movie. Thanks for watching.